Hello, everybody, and welcome to another game news roundup. We are discussing today, as the title says, the Switch 2 first month sales. Estimates, I should say, for VG charts. Our estimates through its first month, or specifically through its first 5 weeks, the way we do our monthly data, through July 5th, we have the Switch 2 at 5.01 million units sold through July 5th. Sold to consumers. We'll see where things are when Nintendo releases their earnings report. As always, these are estimates based on available data and extrapolated to cover the worldwide figures. And then adjustments are made when official earnings reports from, say, Nintendo releasing their shipment figures. Sony with their shipment figures for PS5, Xbox, not the most useful data, but can be useful at times. But today's focus will be the record-breaking launch of the Switch 2 again. 5.01 million units sold worldwide through July 5th in its first month or 5 weeks. To put this into perspective, in the last, we'll go through this chart here. It sold 3.5 million units in its first week, which over the last 12 months is by far the biggest week. Actually, it's the biggest week since the Switch 1 in 2021, but we'll get to that in a second. In the last year, the previous record was 1.84 million in the last 12 months. For the PS5, that would be, I believe, Black Friday week. Or Cyber... I'm trying to think. No, that would be Black Friday. Yeah, no, that would be Black Friday. Week ending November 30th, yeah. So that would be Black Friday. So yeah, in the last 12 months, it did quite a bit more. Nearly double. Looking at doing some rough math there. Nearly double, but not quite. So, if we zoom out to... Sadly, I can't do like 5 years. But we zoom out to all. This is all of our estimates at VG charts going back to the DS, as we started in the 7th generation of consoles. These are weekly sales, specifically. You can see here on the right. Oh, yeah, that's right. The weekly thing messed up. I don't know why. All right, let's go to monthly sales. Let's fix this and go to monthly sales, excuse me. Yeah, I don't know what, sometimes this chart messes up. You don't see the Switch 2 yet, it's because it's one data point, so there's no line for it yet. But if we go all the way to the right here, you see 5.01 million units sold in its first month, which I believe is the biggest non-holiday ever we have on VG charts. Biggest non-holiday month ever. Obviously, there are some Decembers that are a bit bigger. Decembers and potentially Novembers that are a bit bigger. The last time a console sold this much was the original Switch back in 2021. December 2021 with 6.2 million units sold. And then its peak was 6.8 million in December 2020. Obviously, circumstances were a little different in December 2020. Potentially, you know, a pandemic might have been happening. I don't know. Sales went gangbusters through that holiday. Then obviously the launch of the PS4. Yes, the launch of the PS4, I swear. The launch of the PS5, excuse me. And then we've also got 5.4 million on the Switch there. So 3 times we've had the Switch 1 bigger, but those were all holiday months. Also, actually, I'm actually re-looking at this. Hold on a second here. Oh, excuse me. This one here is 2020, because I'm looking at the PS5 and Series X are there, but not here. So yeah, sorry. 6.2 million in 2020, December 2020, 6.8 million December 2019. And then 5.4 million in December 2018, and obviously sales 2017 there. And then the first month sales for the Switch 1 were 2.3 million. So the Switch 2 had a first month sales a little bit more than double the original Switch. And then for the PS5 and Series X, we got 2.7 million for the PS5 in its first month, so it's not 5 weeks. 1.6 million for the Series X. So through the first 5 weeks specifically here, I got up on my other monitor here. So 5.0 million for the Switch 2, excuse me. And through the first 5 weeks, we got estimates of 3.44 million for the PS5. So through the first 5 weeks, the Switch 2 is currently tracking 1.57 million units ahead of the PS5 currently. Just thought I'd mention that. And then other record-breaking months, the PS4 never reached 5 million in a single month. We have to go to Nintendo, and Nintendo has absolutely insane holidays. What do we got? We got We got this Wii and the DS here, 5.7 million to 5.4 million. And then what we got here? Wii, 7.3 million, nearly 7 million for the D. Absolutely insane. And you go over here. The DS, 7.6 million, 5.6 million for the Wii. Absolutely insane. Then 7.5 million for the DS. So the only times, oh, here we go. And back here, 5.2 million for the DS. The only times we've had numbers bigger, again, holidays. So it's the biggest launch in history and the biggest non-holiday month ever. With, again, 5.01 million units sold. And let's break this down a bit. Circana, formerly known as NPD, released their report this morning on U.S. sales. Unsurprisingly, it was the best-selling console in its launch month in the U.S. for June 2025. In terms of units sold, and obviously dollar sales, because they do revenue generated and units sold. They revealed the Switch 2 sold 1.6 million units in the month of June, specifically in the United States, which is a new record. Previous record actually was set by the PS4 with 1.1 million units sold in November 2013. Mind you, of course, it's all about how much stock is available. The key, obviously, is how sales keep going for the Switch 2 beyond the launch and how things keep going on through the holiday, how Nintendo's able to keep up with stock and whatnot, see how things keep going in the coming months. So yeah, stay tuned to VG Charts. Every month we'll be posting our estimates. But yeah, thought I'd mention that. And the PS5 was the second best-selling console. Is still the best-selling console in 2025. Yes, technically. Yes, the 6 months of PS5 is still higher than the Switch 2. Same with what we have worldwide. Worldwide-wise, we have the Switch 2. Actually, hold on, let me just reopen this again. So if we go yearly. So yeah, so far this year, we got 5.23 million PS5 sold in 2025 through June, so 6 months, which is just a little bit more than the Switch 2's launch month of 5.01 million. And then 2.38 million for the Switch 1 and 1.28 million for the Series X and S, which, yeah, Switch sales are dropping and Series X and S sales are dropping. PS5 sales are down compared to last year so far, but nothing crazy. It's holding decently steady for a console in its second half of its lifespan, for anyone who's curious about that. Let's see. Let's go through here. Yeah, the Switch 2 Pro controller had a 32% attach rate. So 1.6 million. Just open up a calculator here. So 1.6 million times 0.32 is 512,000 Switch 2 Pro controllers times $85 means the Switch 2 Pro controller generated $43.5 million in revenue. Just thought I'd quickly mention that. Mario Kart World, actually, the key thing here about here on the Mario Kart World not debuting in first place, if digital sales and the bundle sales were included, it would easily be the top selling game. For this chart here, for the top 20 best-selling games in the U.S., for Nintendo does not share digital sales, so all Nintendo first-party games do not include digital sales, and they specifically mention the Mario Kart World bundle does not go towards the Mario Kart World sales in this chart here, which, yeah, the vast majority of Mario Kart World sales will be that. So this is literally just physical standalone copies sold, which is why it debuted in third place, and Death Stranding 2 debuting in second place, and Elden Ring Night Rain in its second month, remaining in first place, but still decent enough, other than the fact that Mario Kart World would easily be number one, with probably 1.4 or some odd million sold in its first month. I just thought I mentioned that here. And then going on to our monthly breakdown, these are America's estimates at VG chart, so it's US, Canada, and all of Latin America combined. We've got 1.91 million Switch 2s sold in its first month in the Americas. Easily the biggest month ever. And not quite double the Switch 1, which sold we have our estimates at 1.04 million units sold for the Switch 1 in the Americas all combined back in March of 2017. And quickly mentioned, PS5 was number 2 in Americas. Switch was number 3. Series X and S was number 4. I got used to only having 3 consoles in order instead of 4, which we have now 4. Generation on generation, things are not looking too The PS5 is down over 100, nearly 110,000 units compared to the PS4, and Series X and S are down a whopping 227,000 units compared to the Xbox One. They're not doing so. I mean, not the sales are terrible. It's just compared to last gen, not so good. Not so good. And in the Americas, year to date, we got 2 million units sold for the PS5 and 1.9 million again for the Switch 2. So year to date. So yeah, even year to date in the Americas, Switch 2 is still behind the PS5. But again, it's 6 months of sales versus 1 month. We'll see how things continue, how much stock there is basically, because it's still sold out in most places. The Switch 2. So we'll just see how stock keeps up in the coming months. So yeah. Best-selling consoles here for the Americas for June. You see Switch 2, easily number 1. You can see here monthly sales and lifetime sales afterwards there. And then in Europe, Switch 2 also set the record for the biggest launch in Europe. The only place we know it didn't have the biggest launch ever was in the UK. But everywhere else we have data, it was number 1. France, we got data. It was easily the biggest launch ever. Number 1 in Spain, and a little bit of data actually have of Germany, basically showing it was number 1 in Germany. So yeah, across Europe, it was the best-selling console, biggest launch ever in Europe, with 1.1 million units sold in Europe for the month of June, and which is again not quite double with the Switch 1 sold, which our estimates had Switch at 0.66 million units sold in its first month in Europe. So not double, not quite double, but still a hefty amount ahead, and still biggest launch ever for what we have, which I believe was the PS5. We have, mind you, it's 3 weeks, not 3 weeks. I think I want to say the first month for the PS5 was 800 and some odd thousand, so it's a good 200 plus thousand ahead of the PS5 and its first month. Of course, 5 weeks versus 3 weeks, but either way, also to note, I guess I should also note, we do know Sony releases their shipment numbers every quarter. PS5 and PS4 had shipped 4.5 million units in their first quarter, or first, it was like 6 or 7 weeks because they released in the like middle of November and then through December. So yeah, 4.5 million units shipped through there. So then actual sell-through would be a little bit below that. So no matter what, Switch 2 by far had the biggest launch ever because the Switch, PS4, and PS5 had the biggest launches previously. So yeah, through Europe as well, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S are also down in Europe, compared to the previous generation. PS5 down by over 91,000 units in Europe, and the Series X and S down by nearly 61,000. Yeah, and then yeah, 1.1 million units sold for the Switch 2, PS5 315,000, Switch 60,000, and 39,000 for the Series X and S, with sales again are on the downward trend quite a bit, especially for the Switch 1 and Series X and S. Yeah, PS5 is dropping, but the whole is decent year on year. We have sales down about 9% in the Americas compared to, June 2025 versus June 2024, and then down about 11.8% in Europe year over year. But again, the main focus here is on the Switch 2, which actually I could quickly look here and show you. We go to the USA, all-time monthly for the USA. We've got 1.62 million. Wait a minute, is that? Yeah, 1.62 million for the USA. I'm like, oh yeah, that is right. For the USA, previous time as console sold more again was the Switch, 2.1 million, 2.9 million, 1.9 million there. And actually, we do have the PS4 having one. We got one time there, 1.64 million. Actually, it's just a hair under 1.61 million. It's about the same there. And then you go a little bit further back. 360, actually, yeah, this is the US specifically. 360. If you're wondering, what are these two huge spikes here later in the 360's lifespan? Yeah, that would be the Kinect. The biggest holiday ever would have been the Kinect, which absolutely boosted 360 sales. And then obviously the biggest ever month, we have the Wii at 3.08 million. The only time we ever have a console in the US topping 3 million in a single month. Of course, that would be December. No, that's a different story. But yeah, it is by far the biggest launch ever in the US. And then we got Europe here. We go to all. Not quite as impressive. Switch is big in Europe, but not as big as it is, say, in Japan or the US. But yeah, it is definitely 1.1 million here. And we go back here, PS5, sorry, 897,000 in Europe versus 484,000 for the Series X. So yeah, it's bigger than that. And then Switch 660,000, as I mentioned. Let's see if we go back a little bit further. Where does it pop up? I'll find it. Hold on. Is it over here? Nope. It'll pop. 272,000. That seem right? It seems a bit. Although it's the PS4. Actually, I think the PS4. Another thing, but I might have launched a bit later in Europe. But anyways, I could ramble on here for a while, and obviously, also it definitely had the biggest launch ever. It actually almost had the biggest month ever. 1.72 million sold in Japan. This is us taking available data and estimating my Nintendo Store sales. Yeah, almost the biggest month ever. Only time ever was the DS that ever had a bigger month. So yeah, Japan, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good launch there, I would say. But anyways, I think that's going to do it here again. 5.0 million units sold for the Switch 2. Biggest video game launch, console hardware launch in history by a long shot. So yeah, stay tuned to VG Charts as we update our estimates every month. If you want to keep up how things are. And plus, we will also be having sales comparisons of the Switch 2 versus the Switch 1. In Japan, the US, Europe, and worldwide. That's 4 articles, as well as the Switch 2 compared to the PS5. To see how things are doing. Launch aligned. Month over month. Month after every month. See how things are going. And yeah, we'll see if the Switch 2 can keep up its record-breaking launch. And see if it keeps staying ahead of everything else. And becomes the best-selling video game platform of all time. But considering its price, yeah, well, who knows? Who knows? You know? At this point, yes, it had a great launch, but we'll see how things go. It could potentially become the best-selling video game console of all time, or sales could drop off and it might not reach the Switch 1, or might not even, might only get to 100 million lifetime. I don't know. We'll see in the coming years. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video and me, as usual, rambling on probably a little longer than I needed to, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll check you out. Stay tuned for next time for some more gaming news, gaming sales numbers, and gaming industry information. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.